Welcome to the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers' fourth Friday Story Hour. Tonight's theme, you didn't know? It's Black History Month. It's February. Hi, I'm Jatu Gray, and I'm the president of the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers and your host for tonight's program. I'll be introducing three of our dynamic storytellers, starting with Gwen Lewis, Roshanda Womack, Elder Eleanor Anderson. Now, they are very dynamic and diverse, and their backgrounds are incredible. Let's start with Gwen Lewis. Gwendolyn is what she wants to be called. Now, Gwendolyn is a storyteller, and she's also known as Miss Gwen. She engages with her audience in song in her interactive, multicultural stories. You will notice the theme of kindness, support, and pride intertwined with the stories that she shares throughout Michigan in schools and festivals. Miss Gwen is a longtime member of the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers and Story League. So let's hear her incredible story for Black History Month. Sit back and enjoy.
It was just a normal workday for Rosa Parks. That Thursday, December the 1st, 1955, she went to work as a seamstress in the department store. And that late afternoon, she went to the NAACP office. That's the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. She was the secretary. That meant that she would arrange the files, work on some mailing, and also take care of all the telephone calls that she needed to take care of. After she concluded her day, she went to the Cleveland bus line, and she stood there waiting for the bus to go home. It was getting kind of late when she got on the bus. She did the regular routine, placing the dime in the container, walking out of the bus into the side of the bus, going up the stairs, and sitting herself behind the sign that said, "Colored only." The bus went on, and she was just enjoying the people, looking from side to side. Then it started getting crowded. The back of the bus was full. People were standing. Then the front of the bus was getting full. There was another stop. So the driver said, "Lighten up back there." And that was the signal for those who were just beyond the sign for colored only, for them to move back one more row or stand up. Now, as he was saying that, Rosa looked a little harder and noticed that this particular driver was the meanest driver on the route. One day, she had decided to put her money in, but not go out of the bus that she was supposed to go out of. She walked straight down the aisle. and sat down beyond the sign. You know, that driver, whose name is Mr. Blake, was so upset. He went back and got Rosa, grabbed her not by her arm, he grabbed her by her clothing and drug her out. Well, when they nearly got outside the bus, you know, Rosa challenged him. She dropped her purse. Then she sat down in one of the seats and picked that purse up. When he was finished with Rosa, he said, just go, get out of my bus. I don't want to see you again. Now, here he was again. The man said, as he opened the door for the next group to come, lighten up back there. Well, Rosa was tired, and she's decided not to move 1 inch. Others moved, but she didn't. She sat there thinking, I'm not going to take this anymore. I can't take this anymore. Well, all of a sudden, there was a little fading came across her face. Now, that's the fading that you would notice when someone says, I don't or I can't take it anymore, when a male or female has decided they're finished with their relationship. And then they have that look that they know they're going to take care of it later. That attitude may be when you have taken more than you need to take at your job, maybe because of harassment, overworking, the politics, no respect, and you make that look. It could be that look you give your young people in your house when they start saying and acting like they're the parents and you're the child. I can't take that anymore. Now, not only was Rosa thinking about that, she started singing her favorite song. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I will be buried in the grave and go home to my Lord. Amen. Now, this bus driver started to come closer to her. And she started reminiscing about what happened when she was in Pine Level as a little girl. And while she was there, she sat at the foot of her grandfather as he held a rifle across his lap, protecting his home. He also shared stories about lynching and the Jim Crow laws that were in the bigger cities that they had to adhere to. As he told her those stories, she could hear the white Ku Klux Klan going up and down the road, looking for somebody or anybody. Maybe they went against the laws. Maybe they called somebody by the first name, or maybe they accidentally dropped something in front of somebody. For whatever reason, there was fear that was going on in the South. Rosa was thinking again, I can't take this anymore. She was thinking about the time she had to defend herself. Oh, one fellow had a rock and balled his fist at her. She reached down and got a rock and balled her fist at him. Oh, he was so upset he left because he couldn't imagine that she, a Black girl, was going to attack him, a white boy. There was another incident where she had to take care of herself. She was walking with her brother along the lake, and these two fellas, teenagers, said to her brother, we're going to throw you into the lake. Little Rosa walked up to between them and said, if he goes into the lake, you're going to the lake too. They backed off. Rosa didn't understand then. Why would my grandmother and mother get upset with me for talking to these fellas and reacting to them the way I did? Why are these things happening to me and my people? For example, there weren't any high schools or junior high schools in Pine Level. We went all the way to the 5th grade, going to this cabin that was in the neighborhood. This cabin that did not have any a stove. It did not have windows. The fellows had to cut wood every morning to heat this building up. However, our taxes helped pay for the brick buildings that were built for those not of my color. Why was this happening? Why was this happening and no one could do anything about it? But you know what? Rosa met Raymond Parks. He had the attitude just like her grandfather. He had the attitude that changes could be made. After meeting him and getting married, she became that secretary of the NAACP, taking notes, going to rallies, and even speaking at rallies. She even took a class, about a couple of days to a week class at Highlander Folk School. They talked about desegregation, the legislature, the Constitution, how to desegregate an issue that is going on in your community, the school, the parks, the bus. Now, Rosa was prepared for what was going to happen to her on December the 1st, 1955. By the time she got away from this gaze that was going on in her, Mr. Blake had gone out to get the policemen. They escorted her into the police car. Within a few hours, everybody knew that Rosa has been arrested. Rosa has been arrested. Rosa had been arrested. Within a few days, She had been in and out of the jail. Organizations were formed, and there was picketing and boycotting the bus. Why did it happen so quick? How did the word get out so quick that we're having a boycott? Did it just come from the air? No. There was a machine of people who have been working on segregation of the bus issue. There was a machine of people, lawyers, advocates who were working to make a change in the South. And here they had someone they could use as a plaintiff to legally accomplish this task. And that was Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks. Well, this boycott did not go on just 1 or 2 days. The boycott of the bus went on 381 days. Was it easy? It was a commitment. They walked and walked and walked and walked. There were others who took the cab, which reduced its cost from 45 cents to 10 cents. There were others who had the luxury of the people they were working for. They, as nannies and maids, well, they needed them. So these rich white ladies took the time to drive into the community and pick up their workers and deliver them at night. Now, there was some bombing of some homes. There was at times insurance was declined for the station wagons that were bought by the churches. But somebody in the Montgomery Improvement Association, led by Martin Luther King Jr., knew somebody who was able to get the Lords of London insurance for those taxis and cars. Matter of fact, some of the taxis got tickets for not charging the way they were supposed to. It messed up both sides. These business people, they lost business. The bus company stopped running. But like I said, 381 days later, not only did the district court, but the Supreme Court pass a ruling that segregation of the buses was illegal. Well, it didn't happen immediately. These people weren't nice to the walkers and the workers immediately. Sometimes they didn't take them all the way home. Sometimes they didn't pick them up. But after a while, things settled down so that the Blacks could have respect within the bus ride, sitting in the front or in the back. They were able to have courteous drivers, and they also had stops that they could use where before they would have to walk a while for their bus stop. Now, Rosa didn't sit back once all this was done. She was right in the middle of that, ordering shoes and clothing. with all that walking they had to do, shoes and clothing. I did say she did take a participation in the boycott. After the boycott, Rosa lost her job. She was just written out of the contract. Then her husband, Raymond, who wanted to talk about the boycott and the Jim Crow laws, well, he couldn't on his job. So they told him, as a barber, he had to leave. There was threatening phone calls. So her brother, who was already in Detroit, Michigan, sent for Rosa and Raymond Parks. He became a barber and also taught at the Barber College. Rosa worked with Congressman John Conyers Jr. She did what she knew to do and do best. She worked with the housing of people who needed help. Now, that didn't stop her. She still went out to talk at rallies about the Jim Crow laws and what she did and how she felt. She shared with as many people as she could. Sadly, 2005, Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks passed away. The mother of the modern day civil rights movement. Rosa Parks laid in state in the Capitol, the rotunda of the United States of America. She was eulogized at a church, Greater Grace, on 7 Mile Road, just east of Telegraph. She was laid to rest at Woodlawn Cemetery on Woodward Avenue. There's many places and buildings named in behalf of Rosa Parks. Streets. There's a portion in Detroit of Interstate 96 that is Rosa Parks Highway. The mausoleum where she was placed, well, the chapel there is known as Rosa Parks Chapel. She received honorary degrees, certificates, and even a presidential medal. Rosa Parks left with the song that she enjoyed. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free.
And that was Gwendolyn Lewis. I know you like that story because I just loved it. She is incredible at stories. And I have watched her growth as a storyteller. And I'm really proud to stand behind her because she is what you call evolving. Yes, and she's doing a good job of that. Now, my next storyteller is Roshanda Womack. Now, we affectionately call her Shani. She is a contractual counselor for Family Life Services. Now, she enjoys writing and has written many, many stories that will entertain you, laugh. I get tongue-tied just talking about it. You can just see that. And the stories that she has written are geared to families, and that's a wonderful thing because we definitely need things like that. She's written several books, and she is a brilliant storyteller. When I say brilliant, just sit back and enjoy. Just focus and be mesmerized by her. You will delight at her stories. And her story tonight is, do you remember the Jerry curl? A long, long time ago? Years, like 25 years. Her story is how a Jerry curl changed my life. Now I want to hear this one. And without further ado, here's Shani.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let me tell you, I was a 70s baby. I was born in 1971. That's right, this year I'm gonna celebrate my 50th birthday. I was a 70s baby. I loved the 70s. I am 70s through and through. The 70s, for those of you who may not have been around, those who may have missed it, or maybe those who forgot about it, it was a great time. It was a great time to be alive. It was right after the Civil Rights Movement, after the sexual revolution, and it was right about the time when the Vietnam War was ending due to mass anti-war protest. It was a great time of change in America, and it was a new day in this country for Black people. You see, it was a time when African Americans got an opportunity to celebrate their African heritage, their African ancestry. And my parents, they did so by giving all their children African names. My name is Shani, and that means marvelous in Swahili. They gave each one of us a special name so that we would know where we came from. And then lots of people celebrated their Africanness in different ways. Maybe in the clothing that they wore. You saw people in dashikis with their bell-bottom jeans and their high platform shoes. You could see it in the hairstyles. Women braided their hair and girls braided their hair in all these intricate patterns with wooden beads. And some people, if you were blessed enough, you might have had the type of hair where you could get a perfectly round, spherical shaped afro. And if you were especially blessed, you would also get those long bushy sideburns or a beard like my dad. And not only did he have a huge round afro, but he also made sure to add a finishing touch. Anybody who was worth their salt, if you got a big round afro, you'd have to add this final piece, your afro pick, with the black power fist raised proudly. Oh, the 70s was a great time. It was a time when my family got our first color TV, because there in the 70s was a time when Black people got their own television shows. We watched things like The Jeffersons and Good Times. And who can forget Flip Wilson as Geraldine? It was a great time to be alive, to be an African American in this country called America, where we had lots of new opportunities. But as the 70s came to a close, African Americans began to discover that they hadn't made all the progress and all the gains that they had hoped would come with the civil rights movement. And so at that point, I think a lot of African Americans began to reassess. And they decided to find ways to assimilate, maybe by changing the way that they talked, code switching, right? Maybe by changing the clothes that they wore. And I think for Black women, we changed the way we wore our hair. My mother stopped wearing her braids or her afro, and she went to pressing her hair with a hot comb. Do you remember that? Or other women would get perms to straighten their hair, to try to fit in and look more like the dominant culture. Well, for me, I always loved my braids and my beads. But about the time when the 80s was rolling along, probably halfway through, I was just coming into my own. I was becoming a young woman, a young lady in the 80s. And I wanted to make a statement. You see, I was moving to middle school, and I wanted to be impressive. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be that it girl. And I was thinking about ways to do this. Just then, I happened to start seeing videos on MTV. That was new back then. And all the popular artists, people like Michael Jackson, they all began to wear their hair in something called a jerry curl. Now, I don't know if you remember the jerry curl, but the jerry curl was like a new process developed by Jerry Redding that allowed African American people to relax the curl in their hair just enough to make it springy and bouncy so they could swing their curls when they shook their heads. And so as I saw Michael Jackson with this curl, I was like, wow, this is amazing. But what did it for me was the day I saw 6 beautiful African American young men up on stage singing their hearts out and swinging their beautiful bouncy curls. Do you know who that group was? It was none other than Flint's own Ready for the World. Oh my goodness, I was in love. Not with the guys, but with the jerry curl. I knew right then and there that this was going to be the look for me. I fell in love not only with Ready for the World, but I fell in love with the jerry curl. As those young men sang, one of their hit songs was Oh Sheila. And as I heard them singing Oh Sheila, it was almost like they were singing to me. They said, oh Sheila, let me love you till the morning comes. Oh, Shani, you know I want to be the only one. That's what I heard when they were singing. It's like they were singing to me. And so after that, I ran to my mom. I told her, I said, Mom, I've got to get a jerry curl. I'm headed to middle school, and I'm growing up now, so I need to have a special look. I want to be popular. I want to be beautiful. I want to be the it girl in my middle school. So I begged and I pleaded. And do you know, my mother, she was not even moved. Not even a little bit. She said, there's no way you're getting a jerry curl. You don't need a jerry curl. All your hair is going to fall out. I said, Mom, please. I begged and begged. She would not hear of it. So you know what I did? I went to my father. I said, Daddy, please, I got to get a jerry curl. It's the newest thing. It's the hottest thing. Anybody's got a jerry curl. And so I explained to him how important this was to me. And he said, I don't see anything wrong with it. My mother rolled her eyes. She said, I had nothing to do with this. So my dad, he took me to the neighborhood beauty salon. And there we talked to one of the beauticians. She talked to my dad about the process. She said it would take 3 to 4 hours and that I shouldn't scratch my head before I come to my appointment. She also explained that we couldn't actually afford Jerry's curl, but she was going to give us the next best thing. She was going to give us a carefree curl. I like the way that sounded, but little did I know it was not going to be as carefree as I had imagined. So the day came for my appointment. I sprang out of bed. I went to the beauty salon. My dad dropped me off. I sat in a chair and I was patient with the process because I knew it was going to take several hours for me to become this beautiful, gorgeous, popular it girl in my new school. So I sat and I sat. She went through several different steps and processes, and as she worked, there was this odor. I began to smell. It was like, oh, it was making me gag. It was like sulfur or rotten eggs. I had never smelled anything as awful in my whole life, and it was coming from my hair. Oh my God. And I asked her, I said, is this normal? And she said, oh yeah, honey, that's just a part of the process. That lets you know the chemicals are working. Wow, okay, well, I wanted the chemicals to work, so I sat there. And then before too long, I began to feel a little tingle on my scalp. And then a little while after that, the tingle started to turn to a burn. And I asked the beautician, I said, is this normal? My scalp is burning. She said, oh, baby, that's just the chemicals working. I'm about to rinse you out, but I want you to hold on as long as you can. So I sat and I squeezed the arms of the chair and I tried to suck it up. I heard people say beauty cost, and I just figured this is when I got to start paying. So I held on as long as I could, and I told her, you got to rinse me out. I can't take it anymore. So she rushed me over to the wash table and she rinsed my hair out, and I felt so relieved. And then she brought me back to the chair and she continued working on me. And before too long, she turned me around and I looked into the mirror. And there I was. For the first time, I saw myself with a Jerry curl. I had those beautiful, gorgeous, luxurious, springy, bouncy, shiny, curly Jerry curl. Oh, Lord, I was amazed. I couldn't believe it. My hair had never been so lovely. And so I paid the lady and I called my daddy, came and got me, and he complimented me on my beautiful new hairstyle. And that day I made sure to walk all up and down my street and through the neighborhood to make sure that all my friends got a chance to see my new hair. I was beautiful. I was gorgeous. I was going to be the most popular girl in the middle school. And the Jerry curl was great in the beginning. I loved it. But the beautician, she did remind me of one thing. She said, now what you're going to have to do is get some of this instant moisturizer and some curl activator. And every day, every morning when you get up, you put on your curl activator and you spray on a little bit of this moisturizer, right? So that's what I did. I got a big bottle of the activator and I got the moisturizer, and every morning, like clockwork, I did my hair. But over the next few days, my curls kind of lost their luster and their shine. And I was wondering what was going on. So I called the beautician and she said, well, you got to reapply this instant moisturizer several times throughout the day. Oh, so that's what I was doing wrong. So then I started spritzing and spraying every couple hours, adding more of this moisturizer to my hair. And before too long, I had to start putting a towel around my shoulders because that moisturizer started to drip onto my clothes. And it was ruining my jackets and my cute shirts. The collars of my shirts were covered with this oily, gooey substance. I didn't like that, but I said, well, it may be worth it as long as I'm going to be the most popular girl in my school. I'm going to be the cutest one there. So I began to find little towels, little hand towels, and I'd match them up with my outfit or my jacket for the day and just tuck it in around my collar. And that took care of that. That was fine. So then I kept on spritzing. I kept spraying all throughout the day. And do you know, I started going through these little bottles. Like every week and a half, I had to get a new bottle of curl moisturizer. By this time, I was calling this stuff the curl juice. I had to keep buying curl juice. And do you know that curl juice began to ruin my mother's furniture? Oh no, my mother was not having it. She said, you better get a shower cap and put on your head. So I had to start wearing a shower cap around the house. I couldn't lay my head on the couch. I couldn't lay my head on my pillow. I had to wear a shower cap whenever I was in the house because my mother said I was ruining her furniture with my curl juice. I tell you, this curl, I think it was beginning to become more work than it was worth. But I wanted to be beautiful. I wanted to be gorgeous. I wanted to be the most popular girl in the middle school. So I was willing to endure all of this so I could be the it girl. And over time, you know, the curl grows out. And so I had to go back and get a touch up, and they had to redo the whole awful process with the terrible smell and the burning of my scalp. And oh, it was awful. But again, I was willing to do it. So after that second touch up that I got with my Jerry curl, I'm still wearing my cap in the house. I'm still wearing my towel. As I would comb through my hair, sometimes I would notice a lot of extra hair in my comb. And then when I would wash my hair, you know, in the sink, sometimes I would notice a lot of extra hair coming out and going down the drain. And then before too long, do you know what? I went to sleep one night without my trusty shower cap on my head. And when I woke up the next morning, I looked at my pillowcase, and there was a lot of hair on my pillowcase. I ran to the bathroom. I got the mirror. I checked out the back of my hair. And to my surprise, almost all the hair in the back of my head had fallen out. I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe that the Jerry curl had let me down. How was I going to be beautiful? How was I going to be popular if I was bald-headed in the back? Oh my gosh. I was so upset. I went to my mother crying. And I told her, I said, Mom, I just wanted to be beautiful. I just wanted to be the it girl. I just wanted to fit in with the crowd at school. And my mother said, do you know what? She said, girl, you are so crazy. She said, you already are beautiful. You already are popular. I don't know about the kids at school, but in this house, we love you. We adore you. You don't have to put on anything on your hair or your skin or even on clothes on your body to make people love you, to make people accept you. Just be who you are. And that day I learned a valuable lesson about being authentic, about accepting myself just as I am, about appreciating myself, valuing myself, realizing that I have something special to offer this world, just the way I am. And I hope you realize the same thing about yourself.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that was Roshanda Womack. I know you liked the story. Wasn't it incredible? Did it kind of make you think about old times when Jerry curl came out? Well, hey, let's pause for a minute so that you can listen to this brief message, and I'll be right back to introduce our storyteller for the evening. Thank you.
3, 2, 1, 0. If you have enjoyed any of our broadcasts last season, 2020, and this season, 2021, we would like you to take a brief moment and send a donation so that we can keep bringing you these amazing stories and programs such as tonight. It is as simple as going to Dad, bring it up on PayPal, DetroitAbs@gmail.com, and donate. It is as simple as that. It is simple as going to PayPal, bringing up Detroit Abs, Detroit, ABS, all one word, at gmail.com, and donate. Or you can either give us a call at 313-442-3227, and we'll direct you also how to donate to our association. Your gift will be highly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Welcome back. And I hope that the message that you just heard leads your heart to donate. Are you ready for our last storyteller of the evening? Elder Eleanor Anderson. Now, she's a retired educator from Detroit Public Schools. And before retiring, She wrote and produced plays about children. She developed the All Stars Theater as a venue to perform these plays. She joined DABS and the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary in 2001. She often tells stories from a nautical view and relates them to how enslaved Americans escaped on the Underground Railroad. Now, I have to brag a little bit right now. I had an opportunity to be in one of her plays at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History for Juneteenth, and it was spectacular. So sit back, look, listen, and learn the things about what Miss Elder Eleanor Anderson is going to tell you.
I'm happy to be here and tell you about some important Black history. My name is Eleanor Anderson. I'm a member of the DABS, Detroit Association of Black Storytellers. I am also a retired flotilla staff officer in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. Now, I want to tell you about an ordinary person who did extraordinary things. I want to tell you about this man right here. Do you know who he is? Well, I'm going to tell you because you should know. Emlyn Tinnell was a man, a big man, and he fought for America to make all Americans free. This is Emlyn Tinnell. There's a book about him that's called In the Footsteps of a Giant. And he was a giant because of the extraordinary things he did. He was a little boy who grew up in Radnor, Pennsylvania. And like all the little boys in the neighborhood, he loved sports. And his mother worked in New York City in the summertime so that Emlyn could play his sports. When Emlyn got to Radnor High School, he made the football team. No easy thing. And while he was on that team, he was an all-star. He played a defensive halfback. And Emlyn made a name for himself on that football team. Here we have Emlyn's sister and his niece. He came from a small family. He had this sister, Vivian Robinson, and two brothers. Emlyn was the only football player. Now, we have this book over here that you may be able to get sometime if you can see it or find it. And it's all about Emlyn's football career. Now, over here you see Emlyn when he was playing football in high school. When he left high school, he went to the University of Toledo. Naturally, he had a football scholarship. And while there, Emlyn was a star player. But he broke his neck on a defensive play. And he spent the rest of that season out of commission. He did play a little basketball. He went from Toledo to the University of Iowa and played basketball there. But at that same time, World War II came along, and Emlyn thought that he should enlist. And he tried the Army and the Navy, but they wouldn't take him because of the fact that he had broken his neck. So Emlyn enlisted in the Coast Guard, and they accepted him. Leaving football behind, Emlyn became a hero in the Coast Guard. Here's Emlyn in his Coast Guard uniform, the only picture we have of him in his uniform. And here's his sweet little niece, Catherine, over here. She wasn't I guess she was about 1 year old in this picture. While he was in the Coast Guard, Emlyn saved the lives of 2 men. He saved one from a fire when the Japanese torpedoed a ship that he was on in Papua in the South Seas. Emlyn pulled the man out of the fire and beat the fire out with his own hands, sustaining burns in the process. He saved the second man's life a year later on a different ship up in Newfoundland. It was cold, and one of the crew members fell overboard in 32-degree water. Emlyn jumped into the water to save him from drowning. Now, back in that time, black men didn't get medals for the things that they did, the heroic things they did. So it took a long time before Emlyn was rewarded for his heroism. But he was a hero to his crew members and a great friend. He was just about the most popular man on board ship. Here is the Admiral Carl Schultz. He's the commandant of the whole United States Coast Guard. When he found out that Emlyn was not only a Coast Guard hero, he was a hero in the NFL Hall of Fame for professional football. He was in there as a defensive halfback. He was the best defenseman in the history of the NFL. Now, Admiral Schultz and Jim Vankowski of the Sports Hall of Fame in Delta County, Pennsylvania, got together and said, we need to do something. All these years, Emlyn is dead. He did all these great things, and although while he was alive, he received many, many honors, the Coast Guard felt that they hadn't honored him enough or at all the way that they should have. They did name a gym after him in Alameda, California, on Coast Guard Island, but they didn't think that that was enough. Now, when Emlyn went to Iowa University after he left the Coast Guard, he didn't stay there to finish. He felt that he needed to go and fight in the war. But when he left there, he went back to Iowa, but he wasn't happy. He wanted to play football. So he hitchhiked with a driver of a banana truck. He hitchhiked all the way to New York City and found the owner, Tim Mara, of the New York Giants. And Mara was impressed with his nerve that he had coming and asking to be given a tryout. But he went with his instincts and he gave Emlyn a try, and he was glad he did because Emlyn turned out to be a star football player for 13 years with the New York Giants. He was the first black to play for the New York Giants, and he was the star. He was also a team player, and he thought up many defensive plays that bamboozled the other team and caused them to win many games. When he left the New York Giants, he played for the Green Bay Packers, who were anxious to get him. He trained some new recruits, and he taught them a play called offense on defense. And the rest of the folks, when they saw these rookie players, they called them Emlyn's Gremlins. And with them, the Green Bay Packers won games. With Emlyn, they won championships. Emlyn went to the Super Bowl 9 times. He was the first black coach and black scout for the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. So if you're saying today that there aren't any black coaches, Emlyn was the first. Now then, after they saw all these good things about Emlyn, they decided, well, let's do something more because people don't know about Emlyn because his time was a long time ago. And people today don't know him. Now, they decided that they would honor him by naming a Coast Guard cutter ship after him. That's a special honor because these are special ships in the Coast Guard. There aren't a lot of them, but the function that they provide, they can't do without. Here is the ship that was commissioned for Emlyn. It's called the United States Coast Guard cutter Emlyn Tunnel. Now, this took place at Penn's Landing in Philadelphia. And then it went out on its mission to sail in the Asian waters. Down here is Jim Lyons. He's writing a book about Emlyn as we speak. And as we move back over here is Maya Lee Anderson, who went in 2020 to the Super Bowl game to represent Catherine Robinson for Emlyn Tunnel. Now, Emlyn is deceased. He died in 1975 at the age of 51. But Maya went to the festivities at the Super Bowl, and they gave her Emlyn's blazer. Now, Maya donated that blazer in Catherine's name to the museum in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. This is the museum. I don't know if you can see it. And outside the museum is a 7-foot-tall bronze statue of Emlyn Tunnel, and it's outside the Delaware County Sports Heroes Hall of Fame. Now, I was there, and I saw this statue. I had my picture made with it. Down here, while she was still living, is Catherine Robinson, and she's there to see the statue of her uncle put in place. Also, over here is a fitness program building and all that was honored to have it named after Emlyn. That's up in Connecticut. This book was at the commissioning of the ship at Penn's Landing. So if you were there, you would have gotten this book. And attendance was by invitation only. Here's Miss Catherine in 1919, not long before she passed away. And Maya Lee is her godchild. Admiral Paul Schultz was in charge of the commissioning program. There was a whole stage load of dignitaries, men who put money into the commissioning of this ship in Emlyn's name. So you can't see his name on this side, but you can see it on the back. It has his name where you can see it. Emlyn didn't want to stop playing football. He said he could think up a lot more plays to teach the young guys. He wasn't ready to quit. He played in over 150 football games, but he only missed one in all those years, in all that time. Think of the beatings he must have taken. Well, he had a heart attack in 1974. And in 1975, he passed away from a heart attack and is buried in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. And if I can tell you a little bit about the commissioning, there was the crew members for the ship. Their commander was Captain Patrick Kelly. He looked so young, it didn't look like he should have been the commander of that whole big ship, but he was. And the crewmen were there. This was a 2-day ceremony. The first day, they were in their work uniforms, those fatigues that the military wears. But the actual day of the commissioning, they were in their dress blues. And the chaplain was there. The admiral was there. One of the women who was in the crew was the director of ceremonies. There were about 3 or 4 women in the crew. Now, the admiral congratulated the crew members. The chaplain blessed them. The crew was piped aboard with bagpipes to get on board the ship. And then the captain, because a ship without its captain or crew is known as a dead ship. A cousin of Emlyn's that we found, she was rather frail, but they were happy to find her. She gave the ship her heartiest blessing and wished them Godspeed in their mission. The people who attended were allowed to tour the boat, and then they had lunch, and then the ship sailed away to its home port in the Asian waters, where the ship will do honor things. The crew that's on the ship is an honors crew. So they won't be doing any dirty work. They'll be doing the professional work, the honors work. It's an honor to be in that crew on that ship. I met Emlyn when I was 22 or 3 at his home, and we talked about boats. And he tried to get me to enlist in the Coast Guard. I said, now was not the right time. But when I retired in 2000, I joined the Coast Guard Auxiliary in 2001, remembering Emlyn. I stayed for 19 years, and I was glad. I met Emlyn. I'm going to tell you a whole list of things that Emlyn has named after him. The greatest so far being having a ship named after him. They're only named after enlisted Coast Guardsmen who have done something very special and honorable. Emlyn has, of course, this 7-foot bronze statue. It was done, sculpted by a woman by the name of Jennifer Petrie. I had the pleasure of having lunch with her at the ceremony. Emlyn has a street named after him. He has a park named after him. He has several things named after him. But Emlyn didn't want to be known as a hero. He considered himself just an ordinary guy. But his goal had been to win, to be a winner in life, and not to have somebody tell him because he was a certain color that he could not succeed. And he wanted to prove that that wasn't true. He wanted to be a winner, and he wanted to be recognized. And so all these many years after his decease, Emlyn is being recognized. He had a lot of sayings that he was known for, and one of them was the difference between a winning team and a losing team. He said, a losing team goes off in little groups, and they complain about the coach. They complain about each other. Just one big sob story. That's not the way to win. A winning team gathers on the corner in a group and makes a team and plans a strategy and has a good attitude. That's the winning team. Now, if you want a great Black Afro-American hero, Emlyn was a real one. And as the saying goes, if you want to emulate somebody, if you want a role model of how to live your life with character and dignity, emulate Emlyn. Emlyn Tennell was a man, some big man, a great man, and he fought for America to keep all Americans free. He fought on the battlefield. He fought on the football field. He fought on the field of civil rights. He didn't let bigotry stop him from succeeding. He fought on the field of education. He fought on the field of life. And he won. Emulate Emlyn. Thank you.
And that was Elder Eleanor Anderson. What an incredible story for Black History Month. Now, at the Charles Wright Museum, Black History is 365 days, but we're celebrating this 1 month in February. Now, thanks again for coming to the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers 4th Friday Story Hour. I'm sending it back to the studio. I'm Jatu Gray, president and host, saying good night and pleasant stories.
Thank you for attending tonight's program presented by the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers. All rights of Dad's 4th Friday Story Hour is a copyright of the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers and cannot be rebroadcasted or re-recorded without the written permission and a written consent of the Detroit Association of Black Stories Incorporated. If you missed any of tonight's performance, you can tune into Dad's podcast for a replay of this broadcast on buzzsprouts.com or come to the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers YouTube page right here and watch the entire program again. If you live in the Detroit area and have interest in becoming a storyteller, please contact Dad at dadstorytellers@gmail.com. That's dadstorytellers@gmail.com or call 313-442-3227. That's 313-442-3227. If you happen to live outside of the Detroit area and are interested in becoming a storyteller, please visit the National Association of Black Storytellers website or call 410-947-1117. That's 410-947-1117. Or email them at questions@nabsinc.org. That's questions@nabsinc.org. NABS will connect with you and a storyteller association in a city near you.
Moving, oh,